Since 2003, this is the Sports Source, East Tennessee's #1 sports talk show.
Presented by Pipe Wrench, and by Junk Be Gone, and by the Garza Law Firm.
With your host, John Pennington. The Sports Source starts now.
Good Sunday morning. Welcome into the Junk Be Gone studios for the Sports Source. As you can see, I'm not John Pennington. I'm Josh Ward. In for John today. John is away this weekend. He'll be back next Sunday. In the meantime, for the next 90 minutes, we will do our best not to screw things up, at least too badly. Luckily, we have a great group that will help with that along the way. We also have a ton to discuss on today's show. Tennessee's basketball team went 2-0 this week, another blowout win at home Saturday night against Texas A&M. We'll talk about what that does for Tennessee now moving into the final 2 weeks of the regular season. The next week will include Bruce Pearl and the Auburn Tigers coming to town. So we will discuss the upcoming matchup at home, the Vols against Auburn. We'll talk about Tennessee on the basketball court. We'll talk about Tennessee in the courtroom. Tennessee gets a win on Friday against the NCAA. We will cover that from a Tennessee perspective, as well as big picture, a look around college football and into the future. Tennessee football lands 2 assistant coaches to join Josh Heupel's staff, and we can't talk Tennessee-Auburn without a Cavaleris line. We will have that before the show ends. As you can tell, we are loaded up, so let's dive right in to today's show with the first segment, brought to you by the Garza Law Firm. When you're in need of a quality attorney, turn to a local attorney, a proven and trusted attorney, and that means turn to Marcos Garza and the Garza Law Firm. I had a friend this week tell me how much he appreciates and respects Marcos Garza for the way that he does his job. Visit garzalaw.com to learn more about an East Tennessee native who's proud to be a part of our community. Garza Law. Let's begin the show welcoming the first set of panelists for the next 90 minutes. To my right, Jimmy Himes and Will West. Guys, good to see you.
Good to see you. Thank you.
To my left, Mark Pankratz, former Division I basketball player, staff member at the University of Tennessee. Mark, good to see you.
Good to see you.
And bringing together the sports animal collection on the show.
It's a takeover.
That's
Josh.
right. Vince Farrar, good to see you as well.
Thank you to see you, Josh.
Guys, blowout win against Texas A&M last night for Tennessee. First half competitive for a little while, and then the second half it was all Tennessee. The Vols dominated with an 86-51 win. 2 weeks ago in a loss at Texas A&M dominated the boards. Last night, Tennessee out-rebounded A&M 50-33. Zakai Ziegler, I thought he was masterful in the way that he played. He had 14 assists, 4 steals. He was 1 point and 1 rebound away from a triple-double in the performance. A ho-hum 24 points from Dalton Connect, and then Jonas Adu, 18 points, 14 rebounds. And it puts Tennessee in a position. They're tied now atop the SEC standings after Kentucky beat Alabama yesterday afternoon. Mark Pankratz, thoughts on the win? What do you take away from that performance from Tennessee?
Well, my first takeaway was our urgency, our attention to detail just seemed better. Yes, we made shots. We're going to talk about the players and their step up. But just when you go to that Missouri game, or you even look at some of the games we lost to Texas A&M the first time, our urgency, our attention to detail, our energy just seemed different last night. And that showed. I mean, with the way that Jonas played, the way that Zakai was able to get into spots and make decisions and pass the ball, probably the best 3 for 10 performance that you'll see because of what he did on the court. But our energy just seemed to be one of hey, we're the better team, and we're going to put our foot on the gas from the start. Regardless if you make some early threes, we're going to do what we do, and they just buried them.
And because of that urgency, when A&M kind of got their footing a little bit in that first half, took a short lead, Tennessee had a response. Like, they didn't panic. They didn't lose their poise like I thought they did. And even Zakai Ziegler admitted he got a little rattled in the Missouri game. But because they had that urgency, they were able to get it back and then separate. I thought the way they defended the drive was incredibly improved over what we saw against A&M. They killed Tennessee with the drive. Tennessee was outstanding defensively. It set the tone for everything else, I think.
And they didn't get beat on the boards, right? That's the biggest thing is they took the fight to A&M when it comes to they boxed out. Because you could tell in that first matchup, A&M's already, the shots going up, A&M's already breaking to where they need to be to box out. And Tennessee shut them down from that standpoint, and I thought that was a big game changer. I would also say one thing I love that Tennessee did, they shot around the season average beyond the arc, but still beat a team down like this. And sometimes when they're not shooting as well, I think there's a level of panic that's there. And maybe there isn't the same attention to detail when the outside shot's not falling. And I thought last night they had that attention to detail even when it wasn't a 41% shooting night beyond the arc.
I thought a big thing, and y'all have touched on a lot, but something that Vince mentioned, the two guards for A&M, Taylor and Radford, they combined for 52 points when they beat Tennessee in College Station 2 weeks ago. They were 11 of 14 on threes. They combined for 22 points. They were 5 of 19 on threes. And Taylor, he hit 3 threes real early, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, here he goes again. After his third three, he didn't score again for 31 minutes. They did a heck of a job shutting him down. So I thought a big key, among other things, was shutting down those two guards that really killed them when they played at A&M earlier.
Jimmy, to your point, Taylor started shooting 3 of 4. He made 3 of his first 4 threes. The rest of the way, A&M as a team, 4 of 30. And Buzz Williams was talking about how they shot way too many threes in that game. And he was asked if Tennessee baited him. He's like, well, if they baited us, we took the bait. And that worked in Tennessee's favor because they're not a high percentage three-point shooting team.
Well, the bait was we got into gaps better. Meshack got more playing time, which he is our best on-ball defender. And Zakai, the way that the stats or the assists, the rebounds, all that stuff, but the way that he impacts the game with his ball pressure, full court, it makes a difference. It makes the other team's offense start further off the three-point line. Now, even if they get into gaps, they're getting in gaps above the free throw line, so now you're kicking out deeper threes. So Zakai, his fingerprints were all over that game, besides just the assists and rebounds, just a phenomenal performance.
In the second half, I thought the spacing was fantastic on the other end as well. how many times did you see 3 A&M players kind of just standing in the paint, not knowing where to go? Tennessee works the ball on the perimeter. They start breaking to the guy who has the ball or the open shooters. Ball back inside to Adu. Adu with an open dunk. I mean, that just kept happening over and over again because of the great spacing that Tennessee had.
And Buzz Williams was very impressed with Ziegler. He complimented him. He called him the engine. He called him the conduit to what they do on offense and defense. He called him underrated. And then he used a big word. He called him unheralded. And the guy said, what does that mean? Well, it means you're really good. But, Williams was really impressed with what Ziegler did. And I thought, as mentioned earlier, even though he was 3 of 10, I thought he had a fabulous game.
Yeah, both ends of the floor. And Adu is a guy that we've talked about on this show, attack the rim. He seemed to do that last night and in the win against Missouri, cleaning up as well. Mark, what difference does that make when Adu has that mindset and then is, of course, able to make those plays too?
Being more aggressive, I think it carries over to what Will talked about, is his rebounding too. When he's got that more aggressive mindset, it carries over to the ball screen defense. You heard Barnes talk about in the postgame that their ball screen defense, this time of the year, you got to be able to defend ball screens. So the aggressive mentality is not just finishing at the rim with the dunks that Adu gives you. It transitions down to the other aspects of his performance. And it's nice knowing that you got Tobey, who's starting to turn the corner a little bit, that you can get a rest and you're not falling off as much on that interior position. It makes the depth that much more important.
Well, I love that Barnes went back to that big lineup, which obviously worked in helping them get out of the hole against Missouri. And you even saw it with Estrella for a couple of minutes with Adu. So as he continues to get healthier, you could see that for energy. So I think there's so much versatility on this team. It's incredibly impressive.
It's funny, that loss at Texas A&M 2 weeks ago, that was not a good showing, right? It was an ugly performance. Since then, A&M has not won a game.
Yeah.
Tennessee's won out since then, and against some weaker competition along the way, but they've also blown out a lot of that competition. The worst showing would have been first half at Missouri, where there's probably sleep at the wheel at the start, and then they turn it on in the second half. So we'll see maybe over the next 2 weeks, but that A&M loss might have been the lesson Tennessee needed, and Texas A&M now has played its way out. But Jonas and Tobey, the conversations we're having about them right now is what we'll be talking about in the postseason of what they need, because they're going to face tough, physical front court competition again in the NCAA tournament.
And they had trouble against that earlier with Purdue,
right,
or whether it was Kansas or North Carolina. They've struggled with that, and so that combination might help them against teams that have an imposing center that can score.
Well, to tee up to the next segment, we got that can come in with Auburn, with what Broom's got. I mean, they're coming. These next opponents, they're all coming.
Four straight quad ones, yeah.
Yes. Tennessee is about to play a road to the Final Four. The next 2 weeks will be Auburn, Alabama, South Carolina, and Kentucky. You don't get that in the 4 games required to get to the Final Four. So we'll come back and discuss Tennessee's next matchup. You know Bruce Pearl. You know about his teams. How does this team that he's bringing to town this week for the Auburn Tigers compare to what we typically see from a Bruce Pearl team? That's next.